Dan the Man fans, welcome back to my latest video, and today I'm going to be trying something a little bit different with you. We're going to be looking at the DTMS guide to the 2024 Pokemon Standard E-Block rotation. That's right, we're going to be looking at the winners, the losers, and which archetypes are completely now defunct from standard format. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay then, so you can see here we have got Battle Styles, Chilling Reign, Celebrations, the big collector's set, Sword and Shield, Evolving Skies, and Sword and Shield Fusion Strike are rotating. That's right, there are many cards that we will be losing. It's not one of the biggest rotations we've ever had in terms of like meta-defining cards, but there are some big cards here that will be rotating out, and we'll be talking you through the winners and the losers. So without further ado, let's look at the big headlines then. So what will be missing the most? Oh my goodness, Escape Rope. I love this card. Being able to gust one of your opponent's benched Pokemon out and then changing your own is huge. I'm sure it will be back again at some point though. Part of the Peak. Oh my god, where did we begin with this card? Being able to switch off rule box Pokemon is immense. Decks like Gardevoir EX, Charizard EX, Chien Pao EX, absolutely, even our Mew EX as well, loathe this card. Sorry, Mew VMAX, they absolutely loathe this card. So this is going to be a huge loss to standard format. Then we got cards like Clara, being able to get 2 energy and 2 Pokemon straight from the discard back into your hand is massive. Rehan, I've played this card so much. I love Rehan. The fact you can then, if you're playing like single prize Pokemon, the fact that getting a card knocked out the turn before and then being able to play this and look for any card and attach an energy from your discard pile was massive. Then we've got Cross Switcher. Now, I never played this one much at tournaments, but it was very useful with decks that you were able to search for item cards because it gave you basically a free boss's orders. So you play 2 of these and you could gust up one of your opponent's Pokemon at choice, and then you could switch your own Pokemon. So it was a very useful card. Level Ball is massive. Being able to find a Pokemon with 90 HP or less, Gardevoir and Lost Zone Box are really going to miss this card. And then probably the biggest card from this rotation, even more vital than Path of the Peak. In 90% of the meta decks, it is Battle VIP Pass. This card, you either love it or you hate it. Being able to search for any 2 basic Pokemon on your first go is absolutely massive and lets your deck set up so fast. So this is going to be a huge loss to the game. Getting a replacement from our new set, Scarlet and Violet Set 5, Temporal Forces, with Poffin, I believe, but it's not, that only lets you look up to Pokemon to 70 HP, so this is a huge loss. And then finally Avery, being able to shrink your opponent's bench down to 3 Pokemon and then draw cards was another big archetype used in many different decks. And then finally the two big decks that will be rotating out is obviously Rapid Strike Urshifu box, and you either, again, you love it or you hate it. The winner of the World's 2023 Mew VMAX is finally rotating. I'm definitely happy this deck is going. I've lost to it too many times, particularly at Worlds 2022. I, funny enough, took Urshifu VMAX. All I played against was Palkia V-Star and Mew VMAX, and I absolutely got bodied by Mew VMAX, so I am very happy that this card is rotating. So guys, post-rotation winners. So here we go. Decks that will be able to still survive the format are obviously Charizard EX is huge. We're going to go through each of these decks, break it down a little bit more, see what cards are good, see what cards can be replaced. We'll go through each of these. So Charizard EX is massive, doesn't really lose too many cards, will still be definitely a tier A or tier S deck. Then you've got Lost Zone Box in its format, or Rapid, or it's not, sorry, not Rapid Strike, Lost Box, imagine that, a Lost Box. Then we've got Turbo Lost Box here. This is a huge deck that's losing a few bits, but there's still things it can play. So again, we'll look at this one. Gardevoir EX loses quite a lot, but is still playable. RIP to Mew VMAX. Goodbye, Mew VMAX. We won't talk any more on there. Giratina V-Star, again, loses a few cards, but could still be playable. And it was lovely to see it win the Portland Regional last weekend. That was great for Giratina V-Star. Miraidon EX loses Flaffy, but that's really its biggest loss. Path of the Peak is also a little bit annoying for it to lose, but it's still very much a tier A deck. Arceus V-Star loses a lot. Obviously, it's got nothing to accelerate to now. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Inteleon VMAX and Rapid Strike box is gone. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing any more Rapid Strike Pokemon in the standard format. Chien Pao, biggest win for this is losing Path of the Peak. The Snorlax stall loses too much. I don't think this will be winning anything again. It won the Gdansk regional that I was at, which was quite surprising, but again, I don't know whether this will go on and win anything new. And then Roaring Moon EX definitely does quite well from this, so we'll go through all of these decks and check out the winners and the losers. So let's start with Lost Zone Giratina then. In the 2024 deck, this will play very, very differently. No Path of the Peak is bad for this card. It used to play it quite defensively. You'll be able to slap it down and turn off some abilities there, because obviously this Pokemon doesn't play an ability. Losing Path of the Peak is bad for this card. Battle VIP Pass, losing this as well, is a huge for any sort of Lost Zone box or Lost Zone deck, because obviously getting those comfies out turn 1 is massive. Escape Rep again is annoying because you obviously want got big comeback potential. But we'll be happy to see Mew VMAX go, as most decks will be. So I think going forward, this might gain some cards. That Poffin card will be useful for it to get comfies out still, but you won't be able to use it to get things like obviously Giratina Vs, etc, etc. So I don't think this deck will be as popular moving forward, but we shall see where this ends up. Next, we've got Miraidon Hands, or Miraidon with Iron Hands EX. Some big cards lost for this. Judge Path is a massive loss, as this was a great, slapping Judge down to get 4, well, putting Path of the Peak down, then slapping Judge down and getting you both down to 4 cards for your hand was quite good. The loss of Flaffy is big loss. You know, being able to supercharge Iron Hands in one turn and potentially swing and take an extra prize without you very much was massive, so Flaffy will be sad to go. We'll be very happy to see Rapid Strike go, though, obviously because it's fighting type Pokemon, and obviously I've beaten this deck many times with Rapid Strike. I even won a challenge with playing Rapid Strike, and I came up against this deck and absolutely wiped the floor with it. My son will be playing this at the Liverpool Regional at the end of the month, and he's very much looking forward to enjoying the rest of the standard format before some of the key components of this deck rotates. Then we move on to Snorlax Stall. Unfortunately, this will be a big loss. Did you like my little pun there? Will it be a sleeper deck in 2024? I don't think so. Massive losses for the fact it cannot manipulate prizes now, thanks to the loss of Peonia. So if you're only going to have Haisu and Heavy Ball to actually search for a Pokemon now. You're not going to be able to take 3 prizes. You could lose one of your key components. Echoing Horn is another loss, as it means you can't manipulate your opponent's bench. And I think this deck will definitely fall off the radar and go down to like a tier B or C deck. I can't see it winning any big tournaments next rotation or next season, but we shall see. Charizard Pidgeot. This deck is still absolutely huge. Okay, yes, Battle VIP Pass is a loss for it, but that's the same. Buddy Poffin will be useful to still get those Charmanders out and those Pidgeys. It will love the fact that Path of the Peak has gone, because obviously you can still use its Infernal Rain ability, and it will not be very. It will be sad. This will be one of the few decks that will be sad to see Mew VMAX win, as it used to, obviously being a Dark type, do very well against Mew VMAX. But it will be happy to see Rapid Strike go. Obviously, all those Charmanders will be safe on its bench. So I think this is definitely going to see huge play. I'm toying with the idea of playing this in Liverpool. I like the idea of a Lost Zone kind of variety, but we shall see. But this deck is definitely going to be winning lots of things and could potentially go on to win Worlds in Hawaii in the summer. Lost Zone box again loses Kyogre, is a big loss. Kyogre from Celebrations used to be one of those decks that used to be one of those cards that used to close out games. You'd get all the way down to those final few energies there, and then boom, off you go. You can then hit 250 damage on the bench to 2 Pokemon and potentially take 4 prizes and close out the game in 1 turn. And obviously Energy Recycler as well is another huge card that we've lost from Battle Styles. New cards coming will keep this deck relevant, so we shall see. It's going into its final season, obviously, because this will be rotating this time next year on the, well, around April, just before EUIC. Obviously, the 5th of April is the big day when the cards rotate. Although I like the fact that they are rotating online early on the 21st of March, I believe, to let people have 2 weeks of testing before EUIC, so that's quite good. Turbo Gate will need to find a new way to play this game. So, yes, Lost Zone box will still be played. I think it's going to go down to more of a Tier B or Tier 2 deck, but there will definitely still be some potential there, and I still love Cramorant here with a Spit Innocently, a move. Still a huge move that if you can get, especially fall in the Lost Zone on turn 1. Well, your first turn going second. Right, God of War EX. So this deck loses loads, and it will need to be rebuilt, unfortunately. It loses Fog Crystal, Level Ball, Battle VIP Pass, and Avery. Massive for this deck. Path of the Peak rotating though is good news, obviously, as it is for most decks. I think going forward there'll be kind of a more Screen Tail Drifloon deck, which could rely heavily on tools. We could even see an Arven and a Cryptomaniac build coming from the new Temporal Forces set out at the kind of midway through March. But again, I don't think this is going to be a Tier A deck anymore. But you never know. It hasn't yet won any big regional or big tournament, but God of War EX is still a good deck, and we shall see going forward what kind of wacky builds will maybe come out of Japan or come out of America, who knows. But yes, this deck definitely loses some key pieces. Then we got Roaring Moon. Now, Roaring Moon is still a really, really strong deck. Going forward, obviously, Battle VRP Pass, as we've mentioned, it's a turbo deck, so it will be more awkward to get kind of Squawkabilly and obviously get Radiant Greninja out. But much better hand disruption now, and it's got some good comeback potential. Obviously, now that Path of the Peak has rotated, I think we're going to be seeing this in a lot more top 8 finishing, and I potentially think we might even see this win a regional. This is definitely a deck to keep an eye out on, so if you've not picked up Roaring Moon EX yet, they're still quite cheap. I would definitely look at picking up a playset of this card and looking to build this deck and have some fun with it at a regional or maybe a cup in the near future. So definitely one deck to look out for. Then we got Entei Valiant. Now I love this deck. I've got this built. I've got it built. Do I take it to Liverpool or not? I don't know. But unfortunately, it loses. Well, the biggest piece it loses is Escape Rope. Obviously, having 4 switch cards in your deck is huge for this deck. So it loses that explosive donk potential. But Techno Radar and more Jet Energies will definitely help this archetype. It's not dead. On the flip side, though, it does lose a lot of its worst matchups like Rapid Strike Box and obviously Mew VMAX. Medicham V is the biggest, to me, it's the biggest loss for this deck. Being able to take that broken 2 turns in a row is just massive. So I will be very sad to see Medicham V rotate. But this is still a viable deck, and I do like Iron Valiant. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a build with the maybe an A2 build might be the way forward, but we shall see. Now, Chien Pao. Now, will this deck finally be back in the top tables? Path of the Peak going is obviously massive for this deck. Combo of Iron Hands, Greninja, Cancer Cologne are hugely devastating, and it's still got great Pokemon Search with Irida and that Poffin card there to obviously get those artifacts out on turn 1. So this deck could potentially see some great play, and obviously with the ancient card to get all your energy back, or to search your energy discard and get 2 energies, also a great card as well. So I think Chien Pao is definitely going to be seeing a lot more play come rotation, and I think it's definitely going to make top 16, quite a few top 16s at EUIC in April. Right, guys, so the now dead decks. So unfortunately, these decks just lose too many cards to be properly viable in the new standard format. So we've got Quaff, or Quafftrode as they call it, Battle VRP Pass, and no Spicy Season Curry pretty much wipe this deck off the map. Palkia V on its own with no Melanie and Calyrex VMAX rotating just won't work. It would be good still in a Chien Pao build, but Palkia V on its own, I mean, to be fair, when it lost its Intellion engine last rotation, it kind of fell from a tier A to a tier B, and now it's definitely a tier C deck. Maybe more of a mean deck now. Arceus V-Star as well is a huge loss. I mean, think about it. It's got nothing to use Trinity Nova to accelerate to now, really. I mean, what's it got? Not a lot, really. All the VMAXs and Vs have pretty much rotated. So, unfortunately, Arceus V-Star is now a dead deck. And obviously, being able to judge path as well, you can't do that anymore. So, unfortunately, that's very sad. And one of my favourite decks from the last couple of years is Lugia V-Star. This has just lost so much. It's lost all of the single strike cards. And that Lugia single strike deck was just massive. It won so many tournaments. You're really only able to accelerate colourless energy now, and going on to that Snorlax, it just doesn't pack enough punch. And then obviously Professor Bennett being able to discard those Archeops there and put them in the discard turn 1 going second with that supporter was just absolutely broken for this deck. And obviously with that rotating now, it just loses too much, so I can't see Lugia V-Star having much of an impact this season. So there we go. Right guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed my guide to the E-Block rotation. As you know, there are many winners and losers. The two biggest cards going, obviously, are Battle VIP Pass and Path to the Peak. I'm quite happy, though, to also see Mew VMAX rotate, as it will be fresh for the format, and it also means that Drapion VMAX won't be taking up any more space in any more people's decks. But there we go. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed this, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I've just reached 2,500 subscribers, so thank you very much to the Dan the Man family. I'll be posting more Pokemon content really soon, and I hope you've enjoyed this guide and you found it useful to the Pokemon 2024 E-Block standard rotation. I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much, and take care.